Is there a motion to show that one vote was taken on item A under number 2 and to seal the minutes?
So moved, Mr. President.
Motion by Mrs. Zwolenski, is there a second? Second by Mrs. O'Hara. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Bottomoli?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Mr. Zwolenski?
Yes.
Mr. Vadeney?
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about 6. Yeah, David, do you have that motion? I do. Yes, do you mind reading it? Yes.
The motion proposed. Mr. President, the proposed motion on item number 6 would be a motion to approve the draft settlement agreement between the town of North Smithfield and SLATERSVILLE Mill LLC, civil action PC-2018-240, under the terms and conditions contained in the draft settlement agreement, which is attached to the record, with the final form to be approved by the solicitor and authorize the town administrator to execute that agreement.
So you've heard the solicitor's recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. President.
Motion by Mrs. Zwolenski, is there a second? Second by Mrs. O'Hara. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Mrs. Bottomoli?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Mr. Zwolenski?
Yes.
Mr. Vadeney?
Yes. At this time, I'd entertain a motion that we suspend our rules and move up for immediate consideration. Item number 12, public input, potential purchase of open space land. Mrs. Zwolenski, Mrs. O'Hara.
Mr. President, as you can see, a lot of residents are interested in having a voice, especially when it comes to purchase of open space land. So I'm glad that it's included on the agenda that folks will have a chance to get up and express their opinions. That's about all I have to say, Mr. President.
I want anyone that comes up tonight not to think that we're not taking into consideration everything you say. You are the town, you are the community. Oh, I'm sorry, one of my weeknights? Listen, I just want you to say, we're listening to you. We're taking all this into consideration because we are all the town. And our decisions have to be geared on that.
So with that, anyone wishing to come up to speak, all I'd ask is that you state your name and your address.
I guess I can think of something else to say. Paul Soares, Salesville Road. One day you will have a home of your own. Soon.
Vagabonds. Oh, what's that? There.
What's that? I've probably gone over some of this information before, but this is just generalities about open space. Our town has 1,640 acres of open space, which amounts to 10.5% of our land area. Compared to Smithfield, they have 2,900 acres, 15% of the land area. Lincoln has 3,000 acres, 25% land area. Laurelville, 7,400 acres, 24.5% of the land area. We're way behind our neighbors in open space. I grant you some of that might be state property, which we have very little of. We do have some up at Blackstone line, where the Blackstone River comes through the gorge. So, of that 1,640 acres of open space, and you've heard people here to think we need more. The survey said we need more. People who voted for the bond said we need more. I've done a breakdown of the 1,640 acres of open space and recreational areas as listed in the 2018 comp plan. 82 acres of playgrounds, 909 acres are private property held in conservation easements, development rights, or they're within subdivisions, and this is all inaccessible to the public. So that leaves 649 acres of accessible to the public open space. When you break that down a little further, 230 acres belongs to Audubon. That's private property, but it's accessible. Our goal has 20 acres. I don't know if it's accessible anymore since that party where somebody got hurt, but it was accessible. The North Smithfield Land Trust has 82 acres, plus Booth Pond's 40 acres, which is still inaccessible because the owners of Dowling Village haven't given us access yet. The state of Rhode Island has 121 acres. The town owns only 196 acres of open space that's actually available for passive recreation. 196 acres out of 1,640 is accessible for public passive recreation. So I have to tell you, the purchase of the gold property would have almost doubled that. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Alexandra Norton. I reside at 162 School Street. I am a scientist, an artist, and a mother of two boys ages 13 and 11. And so today I will speak to you about the benefits of open space conservation. This is my background, this is what I'm familiar with. And this is my first time addressing the board, so thank you so much. So open spaces and natural areas are vital to maintaining a livable community. Public access to natural areas close to home support healthy lifestyles, increase community engagement, and keep us in touch with our cultural landscape. It is through opportunities to explore open space and places of natural beauty that children experience the benefits and become future advocates for open space. Open space conservation benefits the public by supporting a variety of ecosystem services such as clean air, cooler neighborhoods, walkability, groundwater, recharge, and aquifer replenishment. Clean drinking water, carbon sinks to help offset the effects of automobiles, industries, and homes. The absorption and conveyance of stormwater. I don't know if you recall the issues in Texas that happened a couple of years ago. One of the reasons why they had so many floods was because they lacked in natural resources to absorb the water. The protection of open space areas, especially those identified as habitat for native plants and wildlife, protects area biodiversity. Biodiversity and the variations in life forms in ecosystem are often used as indicators of the health of a biological system. The conservation of a diversity of habitat types will ensure that a broad spectrum of species will continue to have areas to feed and reproduce, furthering efforts to ensure biodiversity. Open space contributes greatly to both individuals and the greater community. This includes opportunities for recreational, health, aesthetics, social equity, and economics. Availability of these amenities is a major factor in economic development. A joint economic committee of the United States Congress reports that the quality of life in a city and or town is becoming an important factor when it comes to attracting new business. Businesses that are not reliant on either transportation or availability of raw materials may be located virtually anywhere, and typically choose communities that have the highest quality of life. Open space can increase property value as much as 30%. Often neighborhoods and areas that have the highest home values are located near a major open space amenity, such as a park, a stream, or a footpath. Lastly, I want to engage you on the topic of community engagement. What creative ways can we plan to educate and engage the community on open space? Many people are not familiar with this concept of open space and how it will affect their life and their children's life. So I propose that we do some sort of outreach and education about the importance of open space. And this way we will advocate or increase advocacy. And when you have public support, you'll have fundraising efforts and opportunities to raise those monies to add into those open spaces. Thank you so much.
Mr. Rapko.
Mike Racco, 25 Old Greenville Road. We have a lot of open space, a lot of it's wetlands, which is protecting the town. We're very fortunate. A lot of towns don't have the wetlands that we have. And I don't know if we count that as open space, but we have plenty of swamps. It reduces the amount of development. So as residents of this town, we're very fortunate that we have all this land that's wetlands. We also have a lot of property that we're not utilizing. We have the 40 acres at Allen Village. Unfortunately, we don't have access yet, but in 15 months we're told they're going to build a road. We're going to have access to those 40 acres. And if you've ever been on the site, that's right next to Woonsocket's conservation around Booth Pond, which is hundreds of acres. I grew up around Booth Pond, so I'm familiar with the walking area around Booth Pond and the climbing underneath the power lines. It's a beautiful place for open space. Woonsocket doesn't have the parking of Gilson Avenue. For Woonsocket residents to use Booth Pond, there's no parking at Gilson. North Smithfield, once that road is built for access, we're going to have parking. So we should be thinking about working with Woonsocket, our 40 acres, and Woonsocket's hundreds of acres around Booth Pond. We would have some parking on our side, and we would be able to work with Woonsocket to use the area around Booth Pond. It's beautiful open space, and it's not being utilized because there's no parking off Joseph Avenue. So I think once we get the access road, I think we should sit down with Woonsocket to talk about working together for the Booth Pond area for open space for passive recreation. The other issue is the Hallowell property. We're going to have a beautiful piece of property pretty soon. We should be focusing on the best use that property. It's a central location that could be used for the residents of the area. It's close by, and if we utilize that building, one of the buildings of Hallowell, it's probably a perfect location for everything that you want to do in town for recreation. And no one seems to be talking about Hallowell. But we're going to have Hallowell, and we're going to have a beautiful piece of property, and we should utilize it. We're paying for it now. The school department walked away from it. Now we're going to have to pay to knock down the buildings and then refurbish whatever's left. So I think, we should be focusing on Hallowell. If you talk about open space land, the town owns open space. If any of that space is valuable that we need to get access, we should try to work with some of the homeowners to get a 24-foot right-of-way, an inexpensive right-of-way to get into some of that town property that we don't have today. It's an opportunity. The other thing is we also have Audubon property, up 230 acres. No one is using that property. I've talked to some people, you might find 1 or 2 people using the Audubon property. So there's plenty of space, it's just we're not working together to utilize that space. So there's no rush to go buy more when you're not even using the 40 acres of Darwin, the Hallowell property, the Audubon site, and maybe some other pieces of property that the land trust is using. They own property on Rocky Hill. There's very little activity. So why the rush to jump in and buy more acreage when we're not even using what we've got? It's unfortunate. We should pay attention with that 40 acres of Darling, work with Woonsocket. It's going to open up hundreds of acres of open space for recreational activities. And it'd be a good community spirit, a good olive branch to Woonsocket to work with them, that we would provide the parking, and then we would work with them to use that property. So I think we can work together. Let's get through the budget, and in July, August, let's start thinking about how we can work together to use our open space instead of rushing to buy more when we don't need it. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
I think a lot of you know that I've been sort of on top of the communications with Brian Bucci concerning the Booth Pond property and working with Woonsocket, coordinating our efforts. It's not going to be a road in there, it's going to be a path that they're going to grade gradually from the outside of the apartment building that's being under construction now. And they're going to grade some land so that we can access through Dowling Village's property Mr. Bucci is going to give us an easement for our right-of-way so that we have the right to access into Blue Pond in that direction. And parking will be out in Dowling Village parking lots. It won't be right up close to Blue Pond. We'll park out beyond the apartment. In addition to that, we have a Woonsocket resident who has been very on top of trying to get the Woonsocket portion of the open space, which is not hundreds of acres, Mike. It's somewhere between 60 and 90, and they don't even agree on what it is. So let's give them credit and say theirs is 90 and ours is 40, and together they have a huge, long border, a joint border, and so it does form a very large open space collective. And we have been in communication due to the Woonsocket resident. We've been in communication with the head of their DPW department, and he has, at the urging of Paul and the residents in Woonsocket, they've taken some proactive measures and removed an old junked truck that was in the stream there. They have cleaned up some of the trails, and they have worked with National Grid to eliminate access for the ATVs, which have gotten on the property and rutted a lot of the trails, and that's been going on for years and years. And I just got an email today showing the boulders that National Grid has put in place on the Woonsocket side to limit the ATV access. Now, it's not going to cut it out, but it's a move in the right direction. We're also discussing with the Woonsocket official the regulations that we're going to institute on our half, and then when we come to that final list, we're going to give it to him and see, he's going to pass it through his various departments and see if they agree with our regulations, and if so, they're going to post them on their half, we'll post them on our half, and we'll have a contiguous piece of property that has the same regulations, hopefully. No ATVs, no fires, things like that. And so we have moved ahead with that, and yes, it's been very slow and painfully slow. There's no question about it. But just because that last property is still just under construction. So that's the status of that. So in time, we will have access to that property, the 40 acres. And then I hope we can encourage people to get out there and use it, and maybe some of the trails will recover after some of the ATV use is no longer happening. And so I think it's a positive. It's just been very slow in coming. And that's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
Staples, 75 Bellevue Avenue. I am here today not as a representative of Engagement or Smithfield or as a representative of the planning board. This is my personal feelings on this subject matter. I hear a lot, as someone on the planning board, everyone is concerned about maintaining the rural character of North Smithfield, but it doesn't seem to me like we're doing a whole lot to maintain that rural character. Part of that is obtaining more open space. Part of that, I think, is having more community conversations like we have had, like we had last week, in regards to a bunch of topics, including acquiring open space and how the town feels about it and what they want. Part of that also is revisiting our comp plan and having a more robust outline put into place, a good guideline for the town when they're looking at acquisitions or anything, selling, land that we currently own. Something agreed upon by the town that can guide the council without, obviously having to always stir the pot whenever something comes up. It seems like we're a very reactive town, and I've only been here for 4 years, and this is what I've seen in the 4 years I've been here. Everything happens always in reaction to something else, and I'd like to see a lot more proactive planning done, so that way these conflicts aren't happening. You don't have people getting up and they're mad and they're emotional, and I realize as someone on the planning board who also has to sit in front of residents, that's a really hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to stomach, and I don't enjoy those moments. I know they're unavoidable, but I think having a more comprehensive guideline in our comp plan, or just in planning, LDSR, will help us not have the conflict so much. The council can look at it and say, you know what, town revisited this 2 years ago, it's up to date, here's our checklist, do we want this property, is it in a place where you're looking at preserving open space, does it make sense with zoning, do the people want it, is there a groundswell, like that sort of thing, so that we're not having the fighting. I think that probably, it's very upsetting to me to hear that we're not getting the gold property. I don't know all the circumstances around it, obviously. So I can't say whether I really truly think it's good or not, because I don't have everything. But I would have liked to have that property. It is a beautiful property. But I think going forward, moving away from it, there are things that we can do preemptively to avoid lots of infighting and boards and councils and getting residents whipped up and that sort of thing. So just my thoughts. I'd like to see a lot more proactive approach from town council with the help of Engage North Smithfield and also with planning to put something together so that we're not having the fighting and the clashes anymore. Thank you.